Melania Trump's dark past continues to surface as Paulo Zampoli, the man who introduced Melania to Donald Trump, his testimony is being shut down, it appears. You'll recall several weeks ago, Paulo Zampoli stated he wanted to testify before the United States Congress about his relationship with Epstein, how he introduced Melania Trump to Donald Trump at the Kit Kat Club in 1998, that even though Zampoli and Epstein were looking to acquire modeling agencies together, Epstein, according to Zampoli, was not involved in making the introduction between Donald Trump and Melania. Zampoli says it was just him, and he goes, I want to testify before Congress. Now, Congress said, great, Zampoli, we'd like to have you testify. Come on in. It was at that moment, if you noticed, at that specific time frame, where the MAGA Republicans in the House and in the Senate all of a sudden took a different approach when it came to depositions, that they weren't going to do depositions anymore. I mean, look, we know the MAGA Republicans in the House and Senate are covering up the Epstein files. That's a given. But at the very least, there were depositions that were under oath that were taking place, right? I mean, you had every witness that was called in would sit for a deposition under oath. But as soon as Zampoli said, let me testify, and remember that was following that weird Melania press conference where she said everything is fake between any message, emails, text message that you see involving me and Epstein. That's not true. None of it's true. Everything is false, and don't believe anything out there. Remember right around that time, someone named Amanda Angaro, who I've been talking about, who was Paulo Zampoli's longtime girlfriend. She and Zampoli have a child together. There was a big custody dispute. Zampoli allegedly reached out to ICE to get Angaro deported. Zampoli denies that he had any role in that. Angaro accuses Zampoli of utilizing ICE to expedite deportation proceedings to take custody of the son. Angaro's been saying, look, I was brought here. I was trafficked here, essentially, when I was a young girl by Jean-Luc Brunel, Epstein's trafficker. I was then kind of pushed into this very seedy world. I then met Zampoli when I was still pretty young. Then she and Zampoli developed a relationship together sometime thereafter. They had a kid together sometime thereafter. And she was always around the Trumps, and she knew Melania forever because Zampoli, as he says, introduced Melania to Donald in 1998. Zampoli later became an ambassador. He has an ambassador-level position right now in the Trump regime. Melania is worried that Angaro is going to be giving these interviews with these Italian television networks and other international networks. And Angaro's given some interviews. She's also made a lot of posts saying she's going to reveal everything about Melania's dark past. Zampoli panics because he's being featured in these Italian documentaries on these Italian state TV networks. And he's like, I'm going to testify. Democrats are like, great, we have a lot of questions to ask you. We should also drill down on questions that have been lingering about Melania's immigration status. Melania says there's no wrongdoing at all, but lots of people have serious questions. How did she get here in the 1990s? How did she get an Einstein visa? What did she represent on her immigration forms? Did she say that she graduated from college? Because she didn't. And that was allegedly on her biography. And it turned out that Melania was lying about that. Then Melania had to change her biography. She's got a very curious past, very curious how she got here. She says she's some incredible supermodel, A+ supermodel, whatever that even means. And that doesn't seem, in my opinion, and again, I'm just giving you First Amendment opinion speech on this video, middle, beginning, and end, right? That's why it's protected by the First Amendment. I don't believe Melania was a big supermodel at all. I think it's a very curious past that I have lots of questions about how she got here. Then these Kit Kat Club parties that Zampoli threw involved wealthy Manhattan men and young girls and young women who Zampoli would bring over as part of his so-called modeling agency, and he would play matchmaker at these Kit Kat Club parties with the models and the rich men, the rich older men. That's kind of what went down. So Zampoli says he's going to be, he wants to testify because he's panicked. What are they going to say in these Italian documentaries? What's going on? Let me testify. Democrats are like, great, testify. And then boom, that's the moment I can kind of trace where when it came to depositions, Republicans have shut down all depositions. We're not doing depositions. So no deposition of Howard Lutnick, transcribed interview. No deposition of Pan Bondi, transcribed interview. No video, no nothing. I think that's related and inextricably intertwined to Zampoli saying that he was going to testify, and then they just shut down the whole entire format of depositions. That House oversight, they're never going to do a deposition again in the Epstein files or in the Epstein-related investigations. And that's, and then I think there's a number of other things like that that are just very odd and curious right now that we should ask a lot of questions. I'll give you an example. This kind of Trump judge in New York, who's overseeing the Michael Wolff versus Melania case, where Michael Wolff has sued Melania, alleging violations of his free speech rights because she threatened to sue him for billions of dollars. If he didn't issue an apology, or like $1 billion, because he wrote things about her and Jeffrey Epstein, which Melania said was entirely false. And she said, I'm going to sue you. And he sued her, and he wants discovery. He wants to take her deposition. He wants to put her under oath. He said, okay, that's how you feel. Produce documents. Let's go. The case got removed to federal court. Melania is trying to get the case dismissed and moved to Florida. It's in a New York federal court. But when I looked at the docket, even there, and this is just so suspicious because this very Trumpy judge in New York who's ruled in Trump's favor before, this judge hasn't even made a ruling on the case since February 27th, 2026. So you've had February, you've had March, you've had all of April. I mean, it's been like 60 plus days, and there hasn't been any action in the case. The judge is doing nothing. What does that remind you of? Judge Eileen Cannon. Coincidentally, that's, in my opinion, what Melania is trying to do with the case that Wolff filed against her. Move the case to Judge Eileen Cannon's courtroom in Florida. Meanwhile, you have Paulo Zampoli doing post after post like this. He's posted this oddly. U.S. to revoke passports over unpaid child support. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a threat at his ex-girlfriend, Angaro. Then he posts this. NICE, which is what Donald Trump's been saying he wants to call ICE, National Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Now, I don't know if this is like some, I don't know, let me be clear. If this is some sociopathic threat directed at Angaro, I don't know one way or the other, but because she alleges that he utilized ICE to get her deported or expedite her deportation to Rio de Janeiro, is now Zampoli, the guy who introduced Melania to Donald in 1998. Is he like rubbing it in that he got her deported and saying, nice, National Immigration and Customs Enforcement? He also said this as well. I told you, beside fake news, now we have AI generated content. Then he puts like a red emoji, like a stop sign. Stay tuned. We are monitoring the web. And then he tags the Italian television network that did the documentary on him. And he's using a post from Giorgia Meloni. And she says that there are fake photos of her that are circulating. And somehow Paulo Zampoli turns Giorgia Meloni, the prime minister of Italy's post, into something about him. I mean, are you alleging that the interviews that you gave with Italian television were false interviews, or that they're AI and all of the stuff that they have videos of you and audio of you and photos of you? Are you saying that's AI? I mean, it's just curious, right? I mean, you put this all together, you have the federal judge in New York in the case where Michael Wolff is suing Melania just to try to get at the truth, right? The judge hasn't made any ruling since late February. Okay, you have Melania giving that press conference as Amanda Angaro is about to break her silence. Zampoli says, okay, I'll sit for a deposition. All of a sudden, Congress says no more depositions for anybody. No more for Lutnick, no more for Bondi, no more for anybody. and the Democrats are fighting this, but Democrats don't control the House. There's nothing they can do until they take control over the House. Then they can finally do these depositions. By the way, in my opinion, they should take Melania's deposition, right? If MAGA took Hillary Clinton's deposition and she's not in the files, Melania's in the files. Even though Melania goes, it is all AI, it is all AI. No, you're in the files. I mean, in the sense that you sent an email to Ghislaine Maxwell, and Ghislaine called her G, and you told her how great she was in New York Magazine and how incredible she and Jeffrey Epstein were in the article, or words to that effect. And then Ghislaine Maxwell called you Sweet Pea and couldn't meet up with you, but you all are looking forward to meeting up with each other soon, or words to that effect. By the way, so you have that happening. Speaking of that, then you have Ghislaine Maxwell. We're learning more about how inmates who are at Camp Bryan, the club fed that Ghislaine Maxwell was put in, even though she didn't qualify because Maxwell was convicted of child sex trafficking charges. This was a CNN exclusive from last night. Inmates describe being punished for speaking about Ghislaine Maxwell. And the article goes on to talk about Julie Howell, a former inmate at Camp Bryan in Texas, told CNN she was transferred to a higher security federal detention center in Houston after she spoke with the press about Ghislaine Maxwell. And then it goes on to say, after the story was published, Howell said the warden, Tanisha Hall, came to see her. She came in and asked what I was thinking, said that her phone was blowing up all week and I ruined her weekend. I couldn't have talked to them. Why was I talking to the press about Ghislaine Maxwell's treatment? A second inmate who spoke to CNN anonymously said she was similarly shipped to Houston after speaking to a reporter about Maxwell, even though she had been careful not to criticize her. That inmate said the warden screamed at her in front of the cafeteria. I was diverted to listen to the warden scream at me in front of the main cafeteria area. I told her I wasn't sharing her business. I was speaking on my behalf, and she just basically berated me there and told me that I was jeopardizing the safety of her staff and interfering with an FBI investigation of which I knew nothing about, because people were talking about Ghislaine Maxwell getting favorable VIP treatment at a club fed where she didn't belong in the first place. I just want you to put all these pieces together right now. Federal judge refusing to rule on a motion that would basically get discovery of Melania and get more information if the case was allowed to proceed. You have Congress shutting down all depositions after Paulo Zampoli says that he's going to testify. Now Zampoli saying everything's AI. You have Melania saying this is, don't believe anything. Nothing is true. Nothing is real. You have the warden of Camp Bryan, where Ghislaine Maxwell is, saying that, it's threatening the safety of the warden and threatening the safety of prisoners if people even speak about Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell referred to Melania as Sweet Pea and said, Sweet Pea this, Sweet Pea that. And then Amanda Angaro has been posting things like this to Melania Trump. I have nothing left to lose in my life. I will tear down the entire system. Be careful with me, bitch. I will tear down your corrupt system, even if it's the last thing I do in my life. Maybe you should be afraid of what I know of who you are and who your husband is. We'll take legal action against you and your pedophile husband. That's what she says to Melania. Amanda Angaro does. I've known you for 20 years. You knew I was detained by ICE. You were present in my life every year on my son's birthday, even sending Secret Service and being the first to congratulate him back in 2016. I mean, you have her saying all of that. And then I just find it interesting that, Donald Trump had this weird event with Melania also. And obviously the walls are closing in on both of them. And it was just interesting to me that when Donald Trump was talking about their son Barron together, Donald Trump says that Melania has a little boy who's quite tall and he's great and she takes care of him, almost like separating Barron from him. I just found it fascinating. Play this clip.
She has a little boy who's quite tall. He's a little boy to us, but he's quite tall, right? And he's great, Barron, and she takes great care of him. And thank you.
And then Melania tried to get sympathy and tried to again, I think, inject our troops into this and say, this is a time of military conflict for America. And I think I'm giving you my opinion again, because this entire piece that I'm discussing with you is protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution opinion speech. I gave you that disclaimer. But Melania is This is a time of military conflict for America. As though she's saying, we can't talk about all these, in my opinion. We can't talk about this, that. This is a time of military conflict, which goes back to my original thesis, in my opinion, that this catastrophic and unlawful war in Iran between Trump and Netanyahu is a major part of it is a distraction from the Epstein files. And in my opinion, a distraction from making these connections about the dark past. I'm giving you my opinion. The dark past of certain people. Here, play this clip of what Melania said.
This is a time of military conflict for America, and whereby we honor our selfless and valiant service members regularly. Today is the day we hold their mothers in the highest regard.
And then I have to acknowledge also, the fact that, 2-3 weeks ago, Ghislaine Maxwell sent a mysterious USB drive to the Justice Department days after Melania sought to distance herself from the pair's heinous sex crimes, meaning Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine. What do you think's going on? What do you think's going on? Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million. Thanks for watching.
New Meidas merch. Head to store.MeidasTouch.com today and get yourself the best pro-democracy gear and show your support. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.